No, we can fix this. So this one has to go up. Here we go again with this stool.
Look at this thing.
I know.
Is that the mic?
It is the mic.
Oh man, smart. I've never been on camera before.
I've never even seen one of these things. Okay, and then should we do?
Tough one, really tough.
Hey everybody!
Hi everyone.
We're going to be talking all about Saint Padre Pio. I am here with my good friend, Brother Jose. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Brother Jose Pio. Love Padre Pio, and maybe we'll speak a couple words about him today. My name is Brother Jose Pio because I love Saint Joseph, but I also love Padre Pio.
Yeah.
He's a modern day saint. It seems like he had every gift in the book. He could bilocate, he had the stigmata, he could read hearts, incredible confessionalist. Confessor, that's the word.
Confessionalist.
It seemed like he had all the gifts, and the Lord just continued to pour down his love upon him day after day. It's hard not to love Padre Pio.
If you met Padre Pio today, do you think you guys would be buds?
Yeah.
I might start crying.
Likewise. Padre Pio, his perception of people, his perception of him is that he was very angry. He wasn't super nice to people. He was very stern and he was very to the point. I'd like to say we'd be buds, but I honestly, I have no clue.
I feel like you kind of need that in your life sometimes.
Sure.
Bit of a reality check. It's like me and
Sure.
Therese.
Doesn't beat around the bush. Padre Pio gets
right
to
to the point. When did you first become introduced to Padre Pio?
Yeah, my mom was a big devotee of Padre Pio for a long time. So she introduced Padre Pio to myself and my brothers as a young child. She taught us all about him. And also, we used to go over to a house of people from Pietrelcina, which was Padre Pio's hometown. Her spiritual director was Padre Pio. And so she just had story after story after story. It was amazing to hear the real Padre Pio because you can read stuff in books or read stuff on the internet, but she knew him personally. She told us about how she met her husband and how Padre Pio was just this integral part of helping her make these decisions. She was dating a guy who went to spiritual direction. She was explaining the guy to Padre Pio and she's like, so yeah, he's a good man, he has a good job, he's a doctor, seems like he loves me a lot. She's like, what do you think? Padre Pio's, no, get rid of him. He's not your husband.
Wow.
She's obedient, so she got rid of him a couple months down the line. She had another boyfriend, and she's like, oh, he's a good job. He's an engineer. His family, it comes from a good family, very Catholic. What do you think? What do you think about this guy? Padre Pio was like, no, get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Maybe we'd be better friends than I thought.
Yeah, really. Then she was dating a cobbler. His family wasn't super well off. She's like, I'm seeing this guy. It seems as though he really likes me. So I don't really like him. I don't feel for him too much. And she's like, what do you think about this guy? Padre Pio, that's the one. That's the one you're supposed to marry.
No way.
Padre Pio told her, your first son, you name Pio. You name after me. And so that's what she did.
Wow.
And they were married for 65 years.
Did she end up liking him a little bit more?
She did, yeah. The relationship grew. The relationship grew from that point, and yeah, they were married for about 65 years. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard lots of stories like that with Padre Pio where he just is like, not beating around the bush. He just had the gift of discernment to be able to read people's hearts. And
the beautiful thing is, like, a lot of times you hear this about saints, like, in the past, maybe 200, 400, 1,000 years ago, sometimes 1,600 years ago. Padre Pio is so modern day. He was 20th century.
So modern and so, like, crazy. I mean, he had the stigmata. He was bilocating. Like, what? Bilocating and finding people husbands. Matchmaker. Sit down, St. Valentine, there's a new sheriff in town.
Oftentimes when you think about it, in these supernatural gifts, we think about, oh, it's unattainable. Padre Pio was so modern day. He had these gifts. He had this closeness with the Lord. He had this trust in the Lord, and the Lord blesses that. You know, the Lord gives it. The Lord allows these miracles to be wrought through him. It's beautiful.
I also think of like how many other saints, not officially canonized, but people in heaven because of his gifts, because of his ability to speak into their life. And it just is a nice reminder to me. We may not have all these outward signs of holiness and sanctity, but the way other people speak into our lives is so influential. The path to holiness, the path to heaven is not one straight path. We're like all hopefully going in the same direction, but the Lord's like blessing us differently throughout the way.
Padre Pio, he always said he's here for souls, you know, that's his purpose on earth, you know, and even when he died, he still wants to be for souls, he still wants to bring souls to Christ. So he says continue to intercede with me, even after I go. You know, it's beautiful, his whole entire life. Even in the confessional, at one point in his life, he was hearing confessions for about 16 to 18 hours a day.
Wow.
He wasn't eating. At one point, he was just eating like a cookie and a beer. Actually, it sounds like a great meal. He was eating nothing else, but he can hear confession for 16 to 18 hours a day, and he can move, he can function as a real person without any calories.
Cookies and beer.
Yeah.
How are you celebrating Padre Pio this year?
Exactly. And they used to give him a regular lunch every single day.
Yeah.
And he used to pick at it a little bit, but he would never finish it all. He said he couldn't finish it. He never lost weight. He always had this nice little gut on him. He never lost weight. But yeah, in confession, incredible. There was always huge lines to go to confession to him. And some people would get there and just be super nervous. And Padre Pio was kind, and sometimes he was really stern. Sometimes when people couldn't speak, he would tell them their sins very slowly.
That's
like,
so crazy.
Did you do this? What about this? And they're like, yep, that happened. Yep, that happened too. And so Padre Pio could read hearts, you know. It was incredible. Since he was a 20th century saint, there's just so many examples, there's so many witnesses of him telling people their sins.
I mean, what a gift though. Like on the surface level, it's kind of like, oh, it's like cool and kind of weird, and like I would be scared if somebody could like know my sins, but to be able to like reveal that to somebody to keep them from furthering their sin, like offering them a way to get out of their sin.
Yeah.
Padre Pio, I feel like telling people in the confessional, like that's not all, there's still some more. It's kind of like the Lord, like Padre Pio was like, no, don't just get a little bit of freedom. Like you can be completely forgiven.
Amen.
What a gift. The Lord wants to heal you and forgive you.
Oh, it's wild.
So all these things considered, what do you think is your favorite or the most notable attribute about Padre Pio?
Bilocation is wild. I've read a lot of stories. One particular story I'd like to tell firsthand from a priest named Monsignor Esif. So Monsignor Esif is a brand new priest. He heard Padre Pio was this incredible confessor, and he said he's scared to death of hearing confessions. He said, I heard a priest's mistakes. He said, I heard a doctor's mistakes put people in the grave, but a priest's mistakes put people in hell. So he's scared to death. So he goes to San Giovanni Rotondo. He stays with a woman named Mary Pio. He's there for dinner. He's like, there's a couple other people around the table, and all of a sudden Padre Pio walks in the room. No one really acknowledges them. No one really says anything. And Padre Pio sits down right next to him, and he's like, I'm gonna get down to business. I'm gonna ask him. He's like, Padre Pio, how can you advise me on hearing confessions and how not to be scared? He's like, when you're in the confessional, tell your guardian angel to come get my guardian angel. He's like, and I'll be with you in the confessional. They kind of finish up. Padre Pio leaves a little bit early. No one in the room realized Padre Pio was there except for Mary Pio and Monsignor Esif. So they're talking about that, and they say, how did that happen? So he was bilocating at this point. No one else knew that Padre Pio was there. Another thing, Padre Pio doesn't know English at all, and Monsignor Esif doesn't know any other languages.
No way.
I was like, how did you communicate with him? He says, I don't know. I don't know how it happened. We understood each other perfectly clear. I said, what language did you speak? He said, I don't know. I don't know these answers. So the next day, Monsignor Esif, brand new priest, he said at that time you had to sign up for like an individual altar inside the monastery. He goes into the sacristy, he's vesting, he's got his own altar, he's ready to celebrate mass. And he says, Padre Pio walks in again. And Padre Pio looks at him, glaring at him with this look of disgust. Padre Pio is reading my soul right now.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't say anything, but he comes over to me, he takes off his glove. Like I saw the daylight through the stigmata, through the wound in his hand. And he puts his hand over me and blesses me right then and there. So this was the real Padre Pio, and he didn't know English, but Padre Pio knew he had spoken with him before, and he wanted to bless this new priest.
I feel like I'm like listening to a movie or something.
Yeah. There's not only this story, but there's hundreds of these stories. It gives us inspiration, it gives us joy, it gives us faith in God and what God can do through a man who's so emptied of himself, who's so concerned with the salvation of souls.
What a gift, just his life to hear his stories, let alone all the saints. Well, you guys, if you have a favorite Padre Pio story, make sure to leave it in the comments. We would love to read it, and we'll see you next time. Padre Pio,
pray for us.
amen. Bye guys.
Bye.